Wow, has it been a long day at school? I can't wait to finally graduate. Oh, that's right. My Shakespeare project's due tomorrow. Darn. But first, more importantly, how are my stocks doing? Let me check. Lots of green. That's what I like to see. I have been struggling all week with my investments, but it looks like things are starting to turn around. Unfortunately, this was not the case with Antonio, who had made terrible investments in Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. He had invested in ships going all across the ocean to places like Tripoli, the Indies, Mexico, and even England. And on top of all this, he had taken out a loan of 3,000 ducats from the Jew Shylock to invest in his friend Bassanio's venture. However, when his ships wrecked and he could not pay for the loan, Shylock demanded revenge and sought a pound of Antonio's flesh, which was something that they originally agreed on in the contract. However, before we dive more into this play, like the shipwrecked sailors dove into the ocean, simile right there, let us first discuss more information on the great bard himself, William Shakespeare. Shakespeare was born to John Shakespeare and Mary Arden. He was baptized in Stratford-upon-Avon on April 26, 1564, and is said to have been born on April 23rd, because at that time babies were typically baptized 3 days after their birth. Shakespeare had 8 siblings and was the third oldest. His father John was a glove maker and was in financial debt. Because of this, William Shakespeare was not able to continue his education or go to college. The only formal education he received was through King's New School, the local grammar school. At the age of 18, William Shakespeare married 26-year-old Anne Hathaway. Anne was pregnant with their oldest daughter at the time of the wedding. Later, in 1585, they had twins, Hamnet and Judith. Following the birth of the twins, Shakespeare entered a period known as the Lost Years. This period lasted until the early 1590s, when Shakespeare started performing the plays The Comedy of Errors, and also his play Henry VI, and finally the play Richard III. During this time period, little record of Shakespeare exists, and scholars speculate that he was possibly a school teacher or in a group of traveling performers, or that he even disappeared after poaching deer. However, after the Lost Years, we know that Shakespeare spent his time as a playwright, writing in total 38 plays, 154 sonnets, and 2 narrative poems before his death on April 23rd, 1616. That's right, his 52nd birthday. One of the plays Shakespeare wrote was The Merchant of Venice. This play was written sometime between 1596 and 1598. It is believed that Shakespeare may have borrowed the plot from this play from Il Picaron. In both plays, a person borrows a loan of money from a Jew to lend to a friend. Also, in both cases, the Jew demands a pound of flesh instead of interest, if the loan is not paid on time. Finally, in both cases, the issue is taken to court, where a girl uses the legal system to save the day and win against the Jew. The only major plot twist that Shakespeare incorporates is the casket event for a hand in marriage. In The Merchant of Venice, Bassanio asks his good friend Antonio to borrow money to seek the hand of wealthy Portia. Unfortunately, Antonio has all his money tied up in other investments and needs to borrow the 3,000 ducats from Shylock to give to his best friend. Now, with funds, Bassanio decides to sail and compete against the other suitors for the hand of marriage. The father of Portia had created a simple task: choose one of 3 chests, gold, silver, or common lead, and if it contains the portrait of Portia, the man may marry her. This takes us to Act 3, Scene 2, where Bassanio is choosing what chest to open. I will be performing the monologue of Bassanio from this scene. So may the outward shows belease themselves. The world is still deceived with ornament, and lot what so pleases so taint and corrupt. But being seasoned with gracious voice obscures the show of evil. In a religion, what damned error but some sober brow will bless it and prove it with text, hiding the grossness with fair ornament? There is no vice simple, but assumes some mark of virtue on his outward parts. How many cowards whose hearts are all false as stairs of sand, were yet upon their chins the beards of Hercules and frowning Mars? Who inward searcheth hath livers white as milk, and those assume but valor's excrement, to render them redoubted. Look on beauty, and you shall see 'tis purchased by the weight, which therein works a miracle in nature, making them lightest that wear most of it. So are those crisp, snaky golden locks, which make such wanton gambols with the wind, upon supposed fairness often known, to be the dowry of a second head, the skull that bred them in sepulture. Thus ornament is but gilded shore to most dangerous sea. The beauteous scarf veiling an Indian beauty, in a word, the seeming truth which cunning times put on to entrap the wisest. Therefore, thou gaudy gold, hard food for Midas, I will none of thee, nor then of thee, thou pale common drudge between man and man, but thou meager lead, which rather threatens thou promise aught. Thy paleness moves me more than the eloquence, and here choose I be joy the consequence. What find I here? Fair Portia's counterfeit. What demigod hath come so near creation? Move these eyes, or whether riding on the balls of mine, seem they in motion. Here are severed lips parted with sugar breath, so sweet a bar should sunder such sweet friends. Here in her hairs the painter plays a spider, and hath woven a golden mesh to entrap the hearts of men, faster than gnats and cobwebs. But her eyes, how could he see to do them? Having made one, methinks it should have power to steal both his and leave itself unfurnished. Yet look, how far the substance of my praise doth wrong this shadow. It underprises it. So far this shadow doth limp behind the substance. Here's the scroll, the content and summary of my fortune. You that choose not by the view, chance as fair and choose as true. But since this fortune falls to you, be content and seek no new. If you be well pleased with this, and hold your fortune for your bliss, turn to where your lady is, and claim her with a loving kiss. A gentle scroll, fair lady, by your leave, I come by note, to give and to receive. Like one of two contending in a prize, that think he hath done well in people's eyes, hearing a pause and universal shout, giddy in spirit and still gazing in doubt. Whether these pearls of praise be his or no, so thrice fair lady stand I even so, as doubtful whether I see by true, until confirmed, signed, and ratified by you. Shortly after Bassanio chooses correctly, they get married. Not long after the wedding, news arrives that Antonio is not going to be able to pay back the loan. Upon hearing this, Bassanio rushes back with his new wealth to pay off Shylock. Unfortunately, when he returns, it is too late, and Shylock does not want the money, but instead wants revenge in the flesh of Antonio. In the end, Portia dresses as a doctor and claims that Shylock may take a pound of flesh, but no blood, since it is not in the contract. This works, and Antonio is saved, and everything ends happily for all but the antagonist, the Jew, Shylock. As Harold Bloom, a humanities professor at Yale University, put it, one would have to be blind, deaf, and dumb to not recognize that Shakespeare's grand equivocal comedy, The Merchant of Venice, is nevertheless a profoundly anti-Semitic work. He also claimed that The Merchant of Venice essentially is a romantic comedy, and pathos is alien to it. I would have to agree with both of these statements. The work does portray the Jew as the main antagonist and largely captures the anti-Semitic beliefs of the time. Also, as Bloom said, the play lacks in pathos, which I couldn't agree more with. It is often hard to sympathize with the characters with the way that Shakespeare wrote the play. In general, though, I really like the play and will give it a 4 out of 5 for a fictitious book. So, with all that knowledge on The Merchant of Venice, let me leave you with an investing tip. Never, ever leave your flesh on the line. Thanks for watching.